Sometime in the last 50,000 years, two people met. We don't know where. Maybe a forest edge, maybe the bank of a river neither of them had a name for. One of them looked almost like you. Modern face, gracile build. The kind of person you might pass on a street today without a second glance. The other did not. Heavier brow, wider nose, stockier frame built for cold that would stop you in your tracks. A face that had been shaped by 200,000 years of European winters before your ancestors ever arrived. They met. And something happened between them that we were not supposed to be able to know. But we know. Right now, inside every cell of your body, there is a sequence of DNA that did not come from Homo sapiens. It came from them, from the ones who were already there, the ones who disappeared, the ones we used to call primitive, until the science forced us to stop. You are not entirely human, not in the way we used to define it. Before we go further, we need to be honest about what science knows here, and what it doesn't. We know that modern humans outside of sub-Saharan Africa carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. We know that some populations in East Asia and the Pacific carry Denisovan DNA, a species we only identified in 2010 from a single finger bone found in a Siberian cave. A child's finger bone, one fragment. And from that fragment, an entire branch of the human family we had never known existed. What we don't fully understand is the complete picture of how many times these meetings happened, across how many populations, over how many thousands of years. The science is moving fast. What we knew 5 years ago is already incomplete. That incompleteness is not a failure. It is evidence of how much is still there to find. For most of human history, the Neanderthals were a cautionary tale. The image was fixed, stooped posture, dragging knuckles, a creature halfway between ape and human, doomed by inferior intelligence to be swept aside by the smarter species arriving from Africa. That image came from a single skeleton, badly reconstructed in 1908, arthritic, misread. And for decades, it shaped everything we thought we knew. The real Neanderthal was something else entirely. Brain size equal to yours. In some specimens, larger. They controlled fire reliably for at least 400,000 years, longer than our species has existed. They made pigments and painted their bodies. They crafted jewelry from eagle talons, perforated and worn, chosen deliberately for how they looked. At a site in Spain, archaeologists found shell ornaments colored with pigment that predate the arrival of Homo sapiens in Europe by 20,000 years. Neanderthals made them, alone, without us. They were not waiting for something smarter to arrive. They had already been answering the same questions we face: how to survive, how to communicate, how to make something beautiful, for far longer than we had. And then we arrived, and they are gone, but not entirely. In 2010, a team of geneticists led by Svante Pääbo at the Max Planck Institute published something that changed the field permanently. By sequencing ancient DNA extracted from Neanderthal bones, they were able to compare it directly with modern human genomes. The result was unambiguous. Modern humans outside Africa share more genetic variants with Neanderthals than would be expected by chance. The interbreeding had happened. It was in the data. The meetings were not isolated. 2 studies published in Science and Nature in late 2024 using 58 ancient human genomes from across Eurasia pinned the main window of interbreeding to around 47,000 years ago, lasting roughly 7,000 years. A period when Homo sapiens and Neanderthals lived side by side on the same continent for 7,000 years. And now, a study published in Science in February 2026 revealed something no one had fully expected. The interbreeding was not random. It was sex-biased. When Homo sapiens and Neanderthals paired, it was primarily Neanderthal men and modern human women. The evidence sits in the X chromosome, in the pattern of what is there and what isn't. Why it happened that way, whether by preference, by circumstance, or by something else entirely, is a question science cannot yet answer. Those children survived, and their children survived. And somewhere down a line stretching across 50,000 years, that DNA reached you. But here's where it gets stranger. Not all of the Neanderthal DNA that entered the human genome stayed there. Scientists identified regions of the modern human genome they call Neanderthal deserts, stretches of our DNA where their sequences are completely absent, empty, scrubbed clean by 50,000 years of quiet selection, like scar tissue where something used to be. The leading hypothesis is that those particular Neanderthal variants were incompatible with ours, lethal or severely harmful when mixed with human DNA. They were filtered out, generation by generation, through the quiet arithmetic of survival and reproduction, until they disappeared entirely. We kept what helped us. We rejected what didn't, without ever knowing we were doing it. What we kept is doing things inside you right now. Specific Neanderthal gene variants have been linked to immune system function, specifically to toll-like receptors, the proteins that sit on the surface of your cells and serve as the body's first alarm system against invading pathogens. Neanderthals and Denisovans had spent hundreds of thousands of years in Eurasia before our ancestors arrived. Their immune systems had adapted to the local threats. When modern humans interbred with them, they effectively downloaded that local knowledge directly into their genome. There is, however, a cost. Those same genes that boosted immune response also made their carriers more prone to allergies, immune systems that are hypervigilant, that react to harmless things like pollen and grass the same way they react to genuine threats. If you have allergies, you may have a Neanderthal to thank for that too. And then there's a second species, one we almost missed entirely. The Denisovan contribution goes further still. Tibetan populations carry a variant of a gene called EPAS1 that allows their bodies to function normally at altitudes that would leave most humans gasping, disoriented, unable to think clearly within days. The kind of altitude where the air feels like it's been thinned by half and your body starts making desperate decisions just to keep you conscious. That variant traces directly to Denisovan DNA, a species that existed alongside us, interbred with us, disappeared, and left behind an adaptation that lets modern humans live on the roof of the world. There are Pacific Islander populations that carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA, higher than anywhere else on Earth, which means the contact between Homo sapiens and Denisovans in that region was not a single brief encounter. It was sustained, repeated, woven into the population over generations. We do not know how many other species contributed to the modern human genome. The Denisovans were only identified because their DNA was preserved in permafrost. How many others lived in climates where preservation was impossible? How many other meetings happened that left traces we haven't found yet? The honest answer is that we don't know. And the genome may be telling us a story we are only beginning to learn to read. It is tempting to conclude from all of this that the boundary between human species was always clear, that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were distinct enough that their meeting was an exception, an anomaly, a crossing of a firm line. That conclusion is too simple. What the genetics suggest is something more uncomfortable. The boundary between species was porous, permeable. The categories we use, Neanderthal, Denisovan, Homo sapiens, are real enough to be useful, but too clean to be entirely true. The actual history was messier, more human in a way than the textbooks made it seem. The species we replaced did not disappear, not entirely. They became part of us. They are still here, in your immune response, in the altitude adaptations of Tibetan populations, in sequences of code distributed across billions of living human genomes. The next time you get sick and your body fights back, Some part of that response may have been designed by people who have been gone for 50,000 years. They are extinct, and they are still working. Next, why did humans start wearing clothes? The answer has nothing to do with modesty and everything to do with a parasite that tells us exactly when it happened, down to the millennium.